Parenting Strategies Program. I'm Betsy Brainerd. I'm the Family Place Coordinator for the libraries, and I'm joined by some of my colleagues on the early literacy team, Molly Lancaster, Mary Kuhner, and Lauren Graham. We are all going to be turning our cameras off once we get underway. Within the Arapahoe Library District, we have 5 Family Place libraries, which offer a broad range of support to families with young children. And in normal times, one of the main ways we do that is through a parent-child workshop. During COVID, though, we are bringing early childhood experts to you virtually. And this afternoon, we are pleased to introduce you to Angelica Fox, the SafeCare Program Coordinator for the Arapahoe County Early Childhood Council. Angelica was born in Columbia and is the parent of 2 boys. She has a master's degree in management and has worked in the early childhood field for more than 17 years. Because of her own experience as a parent, she enjoys supporting parents in their unique and most rewarding journey. And today she's here to tell you about the SafeCare program in general and home safety in particular. We will have time for questions at the end of her presentation. However, if you have procedural or technical questions that need to be answered right away, please put them in the chat box and one of our early literacy librarians will respond. If you have a question that you would like Angelica to answer, please use the Q&A box for that. Thank you, and hello, Angelica. Oh, we can't hear you yet.
Hello.
There you go.
Yeah,
thank you.
Thank you. Well, good afternoon, everyone. We're very excited, and thank you for Arapahoe Libraries to invite me to talk about this topic. So I was very interested and very curious about how start this conversation about safety, especially now that we are going through this pandemic. And we know that more kids are home, and kids that are going normally to school now are home. And the parents needs a little more support and guidance in terms of safety. So as Betsy mentioned, definitely if you have any questions or comments, feel free to put them on in your Q&A, and I'll be happy to respond as long as we go with the conversation. So to start this topic, talking about safety is so, this is something that we do probably in a more individual base in our program at SafeCare, but definitely there's a lot to talk about them. There's different topics that we can definitely share today, but I'm gonna try to focus on what are the main topics in terms of safety the parents have when we address them at home, when we're helping and supporting, and the most common reasons why parents take children to the hospital for emergency or with the doctors. So I prepared this trivia, which is basically something to, I would like to learn from all of you, from the ones that are participating in this class, which is kind of like when we're talking about safety, definitely we want to see, we're talking about hazards, right? So I'm curious about the ones that are in this class. If you would like to share a little about, you will see a poll that is coming up and you will be able to respond these questions. So the first one is, how many hazards do you think your home have right now? You know, just do an estimate. Think about how many hazards. Whatever you think is a hazard, how many you think you have right now? So let's see. We have a scale, right? You don't think you have any. You may have between 1 and 3, 4 and 6, more than 6. So we're gonna just give a just few seconds and see who is responding this trivia with the information you have. So So the reason why I thought about this is because certainly when we talk about safety and hazards, we all have them at home. You know, it definitely we can have as many safety items and we can put a lot of stuff, but we do all have hazards. I can see now the poll is showing that we have, you know, one person say between 4 and 6 and more than 6. So what we do know is that based on SafeCare, we did a pilot report and an evaluation report. What we do know that there is basically an average of 52 hazards and a regular home that they have children. So 52 is quite a bit a number. If we think about, you know, that we have them and it's not about not having them, it's about what can we do sometimes with them and how we can make them, put them in a place that is safer or out of reach. And that's what we're gonna be talking about. We do have the next question is gonna be, have your child have an accident at home? You have a child. Think about if you ever have an accident that maybe involve a hazard, and if have you ever had one? I have. I have two children. Well, they're not that little yet, more anymore, but I do recall when I started raising my first one, I learned a lot about this, and I learned a lot from the accidents that happen at home. So the question is, have your child had an accident at home? So let's see if from those of you are participating, if you have that experience. And I'm pretty sure it's not probably a not very good memory. It's not one of those good ones, but I'm pretty sure you also learn a lot from that. Um, so let's see what are the people who is participating, if you have experienced any. And also feel free, if you're not interested in the poll, if for some reason you cannot respond that way, feel free to put it on the Q&As. You can also share, maybe you have experience that you want to share. So I do recall, for instance, and we will maybe, I was planning to talk a little, share this a little bit, is about having an incident with one of my little ones that accidentally we left the medicine. It has the child, you know, safety lock, but unfortunately for maybe, you know, late at night, it was a Tylenol. And when we realized the next morning, he has drank quite a bit of that medicine. So it was very definitely scary. But no matter, and I thought, you know, I had to take all these trainings and I learned a lot and be reading a lot. I felt like I was very prepared, but those things happen, you know, and sometimes that guilt, oh, I shouldn't do this, or I couldn't prevent this. But definitely was something that I anticipated. So accidents are very common. So we see the poll, we see definitely we have, well, we have some fortunate parents that still haven't had any accidents. So great, because hopefully after taking this session, you will be able to learn a little more about how to prevent some. Then we do have the last question, which is, can you think about a minor accident happening at home if it happens? And do you think that this could be prevented? It was something that, like in my case, when I was sharing about my situation, you know, I thought, okay, I should prevent this, right? How? Well, maybe I should have put the medicine where it was, even if it was, I thought it was locked. It has the lid, but certainly not. And maybe I should have put it somewhere else that he shouldn't be able to, she shouldn't be able to access to it. So can you think about that? Do you think that if you have an accident, is this something that could be prevented? So we have the options, yes or not. And definitely when we're talking about safety in this class, is about how can we prevent those accidents to happen? What are the things that we might haven't considered? One thing to keep in mind is definitely when you don't have a child and suddenly, you know, your child comes home, is when you start becoming more aware about these kind of situations, especially when they start being mobile, right? When they're babies, you have, there are going to be concerns about car seats, about safe sleep. So depending of the age, there's going to be other different um, hazards or safety concerns that you might have along once that you become a parent. You definitely will be very aware of this. So I see that we have three participants that say yes, those accidents couldn't be prevented. So definitely yes, but with children, we know they are explorers by nature, and sometimes it's hard to anticipate where they're gonna be next day, where they're gonna be, and that's a good thing. We definitely want children to explore their environment, right? That's how they learn. But as long as we keep in a safe environment, that definitely help us to prevent injuries at home. So thank you for your responses. So I hope just recognizing that this is something that happens, that I think majority of parents experience certain points. If you haven't had, I hope you're not, but if I don't want to, it's definitely something that is very common, and some accidents definitely are minor compared with other ones. So what we're looking today is that you may be more aware about the different hazards that are at home. And I'm gonna share with you some tips, ideas, and basic information that will help you. If you haven't think about it, if you wanna learn more about it on what those hazards means, just to be aware of them. So we can see in this picture, right, who we all have these items at home, right? In some way or other, maybe not under the sink, but you probably have cleaning supplies, right? You might have some candles, depends of the occasions, but we typically have all this. We have grocery bags, right? Like the one that we see in this by the door of the drawer. So this is definitely things that we all have, right? So what can we do about it? So that's what we're gonna go over. So when we're talking about home safety, um, we're trying to identify risk factors, right? That definitely, what are the risks that for definitely, especially in SafeCare, where it's a program that is intended to help parents and support them in this journey of make their home safety, we are looking to identify risk factors for environmental neglect and unintentional injury, because we know for sure those hazards at home are definitely not intentional. Like the intent to have them is not because we don't want to cause any injury on the child, but we definitely as parents, it's good to be aware how we can do about them if we have them at home. So we do know that if we reduce or remove hazards at home with an appropriate supervision, we definitely can prevent and reduce children injuries. So that's at the end of the day, the goal of have our home safety, right? You don't want your child to be have an injury. So that's ultimately what we're looking when we're looking to identifying safety hazards. So there's this information that I want to share with you. Basically, these are facts, some home safety facts about things that are happening. This is data that has been pulled from our website, but also we have information based on another SafeCare program. But I don't want to, I would like that you just read about them. So to identify why it's important to talk about safety at home. These are basically some numbers that I think are very overwhelming. If we think about preventable injuries as we see here, is something that definitely creates a lot of damage and deaths in the United States. Drowning definitely is one of the number one leading cause of injury related to death among children's age 1 and 4. So if we think about these numbers, and my goal is not to scare you, but also is mostly to make you aware that these things are happening, and we don't want to be one of these numbers. We don't want any parent to be in this statistics, and that's what we want to do. This we want to prevent. So These are some of the data numbers that I found, but definitely based on the different hazards, there's more in-depth data that you can find if you're interested. I will be sharing a website at the end of this class where you can definitely find more information. So, okay. So when we're talking about safety, we normally identify two main concepts, and this is what is reachable and what is accessible. So we do know that parents, when the child has something that can be reachable or accessible. So it makes a hazard, what it makes something a hazard is if that hazard is reachable or accessible, right? So if that hazard is out of reach, it's not a hazard anymore. It's definitely there, but it's something that is safe, what we can call, okay, you have it, but it's safe because it's not reachable or it's not as accessible. So sometimes we identify, some parents don't see the difference between these two things, right? So what means reachable and what means accessible? I'm curious if somebody wants to share something. What if you think is different? You think is the same? I'm curious about what anyone might think. And if you want to speak, definitely you can do, but also you can use the UQ as an ACE. And I would like to hear from some of you. You think reachable and accessible is the same? See if we hear some responses. What I can tell is not the same. So what we define as a reachable is definitely when a child, depends on the age, and if the child can stand up. What is reachable is basically they can reach, basically they're gonna be on tip tops if they can, and they're gonna definitely stretch all that they can. Gonna put their arms up and tiptoes and try to find that. If they want that special toy, if they want that, you know, candy or something that they love it, they're gonna do everything that they can that is reachable to get there, right? So they're gonna use all their arms. If there is, let's say, something that they can step on, they're gonna go over that. And the other guide that we have is that everything that the child is to the height of their eyes, they will be able to jump over that. They will be able to basically go over anything. So if it's a piece of furniture, if it's just a furniture and they want to access to something, they want to reach something, they can go climb to everything that is to the basically the height of their eyes. So that's where we're looking at when we are trying to identify hazards at home. So if you find something like you have a table or a chair and he can climb on that chair, on that table, and if it's to the height of their eyes, they will be able to go over that table to find something else. So inaccessible is basically something that is locked. It has the lock. So like for instance, the outlets at home are reachable because typically every child there basically saw in a very, very low area over the wall, and they can reach them, right? But what makes not accessible is when we put something that is going to cover that outlet, so they cannot put anything on it, and they definitely is going to create some fire or maybe a little shock for them because there's electricity. So that's when we're looking about safety. We want to think about, okay, is accessible, is reachable? If it's reachable, can I make it not accessible? So if they cannot get in, they cannot have access to that. Like another example is the medication. So as long as it's with the lid, have the child, safety, they will not be able to have access to that medicine. So that's where the two things that we're looking when we're talking about safety in terms of hazards. We do have, in terms of, let's see, sorry, I'm missing one piece. Okay, so when we are looking at hazards, we do know that these are the 10 main categories of hazards at home. Um, the ones that have the signs are the ones that we are the most common ones, the ones that typically a lot of accidents, emergency visits are happening because the 10 hazards that you see with the symbols. The ones on the left are topics that are important to talk, conversations that we definitely address, that also provoke certain injuries for the children. So those are conversations that we have more in one-on-one. For instance, we see marijuana. This is a topic that doesn't apply for every state. So we talk about where to keep it since it's legal. So, and also talk about what is in terms of parenting, how this is, and we talk about the law. And so this is a topic that is definitely depending of where the families live. So car safety, there's also certain guidelines, depends of the age. So there's other topics like the ones that you see on the left that I will not necessarily I'm going to talk about this in this session because it will require more time. So we're gonna be just focusing on the 10 main categories, which are the ones that you see with the symbols. So what it might happen, and I already talked about reachable, searchable, is once that we identify the hazards, we want to go over what are those strategies, what are things that we can do about them, that they're basically tips that can help us to prevent those accidents. So the most common ones are we install childproof devices, we lock items. We see some of the pictures when we put some locks. Um, Place items out of reach. Definitely sometimes it's just a matter of just move the things. And sometimes I can put something that will block that outlet, for instance, or something, if it's a window that I see that I can put a lock or I may not be able to put a lock, I probably will put something that prevent the child to get close to the window. So I can just put something on their way that will prevent that, right? So that means place items sometimes. So sometimes I just have to remove them, right? So getting, if it's something, especially when the children, the little ones to start walking, crawling, is when a lot of parents basically clean all their home, make sure that all those sharp objects, glasses, things that can break easily, they just remove them, right? Especially if you have valuable, something that is very valuable for you. It might not be a hazard, but you want to keep it. So the best is probably just move it temporarily until it's safer to put it back and the child is more aware, and you can teach him or her that maybe, this is delicate and it's better not to touch it. So, but in the meantime, if you think about this, the best probably will be remove it. Sometimes if it's something that is gonna crush, definitely requires more, make it safer installing it well. In terms of definitely organic and allergens, we talk a little more. Definitely is a matter of just keep our house clean, maintain clean, vacuum regularly. Now, we can do everything. We can put all the locks, we can do all this, move all the items, but definitely there's nothing that is going to replace supervision. And this is the number one tip that you already know, but definitely I want to emphasize the importance of, regardless of the locks, regardless of the daily safety measures that you take at home, definitely supervision is number one. Because children are explorers by nature and definitely can be unpredictable, and we want them to explore the world, but if we supervise them and we keep them, we have an eye contact with them, we know what they're doing, definitely that will help to prevent. So I'm just gonna take a little pause here to see if maybe if there's any cues, any questions, anything before we start more in depth in terms of the different hazards and some tips and strategies that can help to prevent them. So I'm just curious if there are any questions. It will be. Okay.
I don't see anything in the Q&A box yet.
I see some in the chat. So I see some stuff in the chat. I think
See.
I have I see somebody a fly poison. uh, uh, Johnson and as a child. Oh, yeah, that thanks for sharing that. That definitely probably was something that we learned. Says, when I was a baby, I grabbed all the pill bottles on the counter. It's still unusual with my parents today, and I'm in my late 30s. Oh, I see that. So it's not only for children, right? There's all things that can happen. My mom still remember and is very careful with medicine. Yeah, definitely medicine is huge. I have my daughter banged her head on the corner of a very sharp coffee table. Yes, those are sharp tables, definitely, especially when they start walking. Is definitely one of the big ones. A lot of bump hits happen there. If they're very sharp, certainly. So there's different things that we can use to prevent that. When I was little, I almost saw my finger off when making a birdhouse with my dad. Yeah, that's a sharp object. Um, it was real. Oh, that's always real. So I imagine that was probably very scary for everyone. When my kids were young, one of them fell down the stairs because our gate wasn't closed all the way. Yes. Yeah, the gates definitely are safe, but sometimes we rely a lot of them, and we know the gate is there, but if it's not properly closed, that's where those things happen. Still horrified when I think about it, and it was when he wasn't walking yet. Oh, well, maybe that was a good thing. But at the same time, if they're crawling, that especially going down is definitely scary. Okay, I'm sorry. I see someone says I can see the image. I hope Lauren can use. I hope you can see the image now. Um,
Yes, thank you. We're good.
okay, perfect. Thank you. Just didn't keep an eye on that. Okay, so let's go now a little more in depth. So I was kind of focused a little more in like more general tips for each of these and the safety hazards. Definitely poison when somebody was sharing about the medications. Definitely what we recommend is to keep them stored in a household. Something interesting about poison is that the number of calls that receive the poison, you know, there is a line that you can call, and I put the number there. If you don't have it, it definitely is something that I highly recommend to keep it very close to you. The poison, the agency, we have one here in Colorado, and they provide, it's an amazing resource. You can call if for some reason, like when we're talking about, and this is not gonna probably also help for children, but also as you as an adult, you can call to this line and they will be able to provide you information. So I recall when I had the experience that I shared at the beginning with my son, he was 4 years old, and I definitely noticed that he drank a big portion of Tylenol. I called this number and they asked me questions, how much and like how long ago, what medicine, how old is he, and I ask all these questions, and they provide me some guidance, and so to look at it and recommend some things to do. So drink plenty of water, just keep an eye on him and see if he has any reactions. But at the end of the day, I will say if I didn't have the phone number, if I didn't call them, what I probably have done was going to emergency room. So it definitely saved me some time. It was a minor thing. I'm not saying this might apply for every case, but they will provide you guidance, and it's 24/7. They also have, for some, they do provide, you can, I'm not sure if it works specifically. We use this resource. So there's coloring pages where you can also start talking about safety with the children. But this is a great resource. I highly recommend to keep it closer to you. They have magnets. Sometimes there are different parents resource fairs. If you get one of those magnets, put it on your fridge. That's what I keep mine. And it definitely, again, it saved me a trip to the emergency room and a good bill. So it definitely helpful. Um, it's important, it's recommended that you keep the original container. And sometimes if you want to change it to a different one, it's definitely to keep it, and for several reasons, because the original container will provide all the information about safety, like age, appropriate amount of doses, expiration date. So all this is also why we recommend to always keep it on the original container. um, Definitely some of the most common poison hazards that we find at home that we all have: cleaning supplies, laundry packets, the laundry little box. There is a very good video on our website that I'm gonna share at the end, where it's very creative, and it's a good way to, because there's a lot of those laundry pockets that children, they think, the colors are very, sometimes they have this nice color that is very attractive to children, so they eat it, and that is one of the main concerns. So there is a video that I will share on a website, and that is very helpful, and address is specifically about the laundry packets, personal care items, right? Plants. So there is a guide in terms of, there's some plants that are poisons, and sometimes they might look very nice at home, but you have to be aware that when the children tend to eat everything, put everything in their mouth, they might eat one of those poison plants. So there is a guideline, a guide of the different plants, and also when you buy a plant, it's good to ask and do your research as far as this plant is something that will be safe at home. Alcohol, definitely, if it's very close, and medicine, as we just mentioned. We're gonna go over shock hazards, which when we talk about shocking, basically among children treated in emergency rooms, and we're talking about no fatal choking accidents. Almost 60% are food related. So we typically think, oh, it's just those little things, the clips, all this, the coins, which we always have. But food is one of the big ones, especially when the little ones are starting to eat. So it's 60% food related in terms of choking hazards. 13% involve coins, swallowing coins, and 90% involve candy or gum. They heard candy. So this is the information I'm sharing because food seems to be one of the main reasons why this is happening. So what is definitely recommended is, especially if you have a toddler, definitely cut the food in little pieces. Children under 5 don't eat small and round and hard foods like little hot dogs, cheese, just make sure to cut it, popcorn, grapes, cut it in half, and nuts, and definitely candy. Um, it is recommended that young kids eat in their high chairs or a table, and definitely no, well, lay down, and also when they're playing. In terms of toys, toys is a individual topic, but I included here under the choke hazard category is because it's important when you buy toys or somebody give you a toy, in the birthday parties or celebrations, just keep an eye on those small accessories that come with the toys. Definitely when we buy toys, we all want to make sure that we follow, the manufacturer will recommend the age of the toy. However, sometimes they start losing parts with the time of use. So toys is something that you always have to be really, really careful and keep an eye on them. Accessories, because they tend to lose small pieces because they use. Also some of the toys have magnets, so it's also good to keep those out of reach, especially the ones that have the small magnets, because if they swallow them, that is definitely is gonna be a couple things. It's gonna be definitely a big issue in terms of choking. So then we're gonna go, we have the next category is about suffocation. Basically the term suffocation in terms of hazard means the brain cannot get enough oxygen. When we talk about this, is definitely everything that is is very common to kind of get a little this is a when we're talking about this hazard, sometimes there is a difference between choking and suffocation, right? Like asphyxia. So and when the choke is because the child ate the thing, right? So that is definitely up, is the item is here, it cannot breathe. So that creates also damage, right? Because the brain is not getting enough oxygen. But that's because the choking is the child ate the item. In the case of suffocation, is also because there no oxygen going to the brain, but it's more like external. So a very some good examples are plastic bags. We see a lot of cases when the child, especially when they're little, they start playing, the peekaboo game with a plastic bag, groceries bags. And the main reason why this is an issue is because it's easy for them to put it on, but what they have a struggle is to take it out. Okay, so you're not out close by in that, it's just a matter of seconds when they can stop receiving oxygen because they get this anxiety, they cannot take it out. So plastic bags are a big hazard in this category. When the baby is definitely asleep, hazards related to safe sleep. So here what I recommend you is definitely follow the guidelines of CDC and the American Academy of Pediatrics for any child is 0 to 18 months. Then we have the drowning, which I mentioned at the beginning, and you saw in the facts at the beginning of the presentation when I was talking about this. It's definitely the child is not able to breathe because he has water, right? Or liquid that fills the lungs. Any standing water, anything that is 1 inch of water is all that it takes for a child to drown. So that we cannot think about, oh, it has to be a big container with a lot of water. It only takes 1 inch, especially when they're babies. So when we give them a bath, make sure that once that they take a bath, any buckets, containers, kids pools on summer, make sure that you empty them after you use them. Bedrooms, any child that is under 3, toilets that are open, they are a hazard for drawing in. Okay, children tend to put draw toys in the toilet, and they want to get them, and it takes a matter of seconds for them to do this. So any child under 3, unless that you keep the bathroom locked or you put a lock in the toilet, that is for it's a safety, is a drawing hazard. So I'm gonna stop, see if there's any questions or anything on the chat, or I'll just keep going. Okay.
I don't see anything. I think you can keep going.
Okay, I'll keep going. Just let me know. Okay. So then we have the category of fire electrical. Definitely is very self-explanatory, but everything that burn, explode, or carry enough electricity to injure. So the typical are the outlets, right? At home, we have all of them. But definitely children tend to, anything that has a hole, they want to put something on it, right? So that is one of the really common ones. And that is an easy fix to just put the outlet plugs, and that will help them. However, some of them some children, when they're getting old enough, they are able to get something to take it off. So sometimes you have to find some that are even for when they get older, for even children that maybe have that fascination for electricity or playing with tools. Definitely you might find some that are more advanced and more difficult to take off. Working, what is important here, and in terms of fire, is good to definitely making sure that you have working smoke alarms. We know that working smoke alarms can reduce the chances of dying in fire by nearly 50%. Okay, so make sure you regularly check the batteries that they're used, they work, because that definitely can be a big prevention a piece on your safety plan at home. Um, Sometimes depends on where you live, but it's recommended to make sure that you have a fire extinguisher. They sell some that are little, like you can keep it on the kitchen. They're not necessarily the big one. Just for a small, if something start burn and you see fire, something easy. But if you keep the big one, just make sure you know how to use it, because in a moment of fire, you don't have time to read the directions how this works. So make sure that if you have one at home, it doesn't make any good, or it will not make any effect if you have one but you don't know how to use it, right? So that's what makes the difference. Have one but I know how to use it. And in terms of cooking, kitchen is definitely one of the big hot spots in their homes, in our homes. So it's good to have a kids zone area. In some families, what they use is like kitchens are not allowed. Depends of how is the structure of your home. If it's an area that is not necessarily the main area, but we see a lot right now, the trend is now open houses, everything is accessible. Kitchens are the kind of like the main hotspot for the homes. So what might that make a little more difficult, but maybe sometimes that kids on free is just by the stove, whatever it is. When I'm cooking, children are not coming when I'm cooking in this area. I've seen some parents that they put even they put some like a tape around this stuff, and there's a visual part that parents teach the children. Say, if you see this blue area, everything, you cannot pass this. You cannot. This is a kids free zone. You cannot come in this area when I'm cooking or when I'm not cooking, either way. Um, in this area, like definitely fire, electrical, we go a little more in depth, especially on ideas about when parents are cooking, good best practices, where to cook, where to boil, where to fry, if parents that fry. So use always the second side, the back of the stove is always highly recommended to avoid burning as well. So that is, I love the kids sound free area. It's a good, it keeps you definitely, sometimes you need to put gates. It depends on how your home, the structure, and how it definitely flows around, every daily activities. We do have, in terms of false and activity restriction, is basically any situation where a child is in danger or failing or is restricted because of excessive objects. Sometimes definitely windows that are not locked and that we know that the child can climb over a chair or maybe a table or even a couch. If they can go over there to a window and they can open easily, that definitely is considered a hazard of fall. And restrictions, anything that maybe big boxes or a lot of items that are definitely restricting the child. That definitely sometimes a lot of when you children cannot walk, there's a lot of things going on that definitely can something that can affect the children to move safer, right? So try to open spaces, especially there are objects that are impeding this. Definitely one of the ones that most of our parents in the program always looking is definitely safety gates, you know. But as we heard, as long as it's definitely closed properly, installed properly. Some safety gates are very light, and you always have to keep in mind how strong is your child, the age of your child, in order to install. Some of them are mobile, you can put it up and put it down. Some of you could keep them there, install them with the on over the wall like permanently, and those probably are more stable than the ones that you move. So safety gates definitely are really, really helpful, especially when children start to walk and you have stairs. So you can place them at when it's upstairs or downstairs. Sometimes it's recommended more depending, but probably more upstairs, so you can now have both. um, every child likes to climb, you know, that's part of, they need that is something, everything that they can climb, they will do it when they get to that age. um, because every child perspective is that everything is a potential mountain to climb. They always want to climb the mountains, right? So anything, any obstacle that will be over that mountain, they want to try to find how they can get away from that, right? So anything beyond the safety gate is something that they want to do. But if you have a safety gate, they will not be able to climb. Um, hey, then then we have sharp objects, and that is definitely one of the ones that we see most in our kitchens, all the knives. What we recommend, there's a lot of great locks that are available. We recommend to keep all of them in one place, maybe one drawer, one cabinet, and keep it locked. Um, it's a good kind of feel peace of mind at a certain point for parents, because children, you know, it's an object that children see it as a toy. Sometimes they see a lot of you know, we eat with them, right? So why is it harm if I can eat it? You know, if they, once they see us, they want to copy us. So definitely knives are something that we want to keep locked or out of reach. um, well, I'm missing a piece here, but it's basically walking and running with sharp objects. So if anything, that if it's a, if sharp objects, so when we're talking about this, is not only knives, not only scissors, but sometimes if a child is walking with a pen or something similar, that it can be in especially when they start walking. um, the funny story here is, and I don't know if it's funny, but I know a case that typically when a child has a pen or a pencil, the moment that you see them, they know that you stop them. And what is the first thing that they're going to do? They want to run from you. And if they have that sharp object in their hand, that it can be very dangerous because they can fall, and that definitely can go in their eyes. I know someone that had that accident when he was a little, and that person lost that eye when he was little just because of pencil. So that is the piece. If you see a child with a pencil, don't run after them. Just pretend that you don't see them and nicely just take them from him. But don't run after him because he's gonna run from you. And that will be very scary. Um, it's good. It's sometimes there's a time that cooking with the children is fun. It's something that definitely create bonding, and you have little ones that let's make cookies or decorate them or things like this. But if you are cooking with them, just make sure that you supervise and you don't leave them alone, and especially try to avoid that they are in that hot, you know, sun of the kitchen. Um, then we have firearms. Um, Definitely, there's a lot to say about firearms. We know they're legal, but what we seen in its conversation, definitely sometimes it depends if you have one at home or not. It definitely is keep them out of reach and out of sight. That children store, it's important to store them properly. There's a lot of locks. It's even recommended that the children don't know where they are at. Children are especially boys, are fascinated by guns. And children, and there is statistics, the children as young as 3 years old may be strong enough to pull the trigger of a handgun, right? So you think that they're not strong enough, they are, if they are 3 years old, right? A child doesn't differentiate between a toy gun and a real gun, okay? They will not differentiate that. I don't want to spend a lot of time on this because I think at this point we are all aware about all the damage that a gun can create, especially if it's not kept it safely. One of the conversations that we keep with our families that don't have guns at home is that it's important to have a conversation when the children start going to play dates, we start going with the friends, the neighbors. And if you are aware that they have a gun, it's good to have a conversation with your child, depends if it's older. When it gets to that age that they start doing like sometimes when they're older, sleeping over or things like this with friends, just be aware and ask. It's okay to ask if they have a gun at home, if they are keeping it safe. A lot of accidents that we have seen, sadly, is not necessarily because the guns that are in on their own homes of the children. There's a lot of the cases that happen is when the child go to their neighbor or friend has a gun and they are starting playing with it. They know where they are, but it's not their home. Again, a lot of accidents that happen is in this way. Not because you have one, is where they go and they may have one. So this is a conversation about safety that is important to share with your child when it's the age appropriate for that. There's some videos that we like to share with families about this. And again, the most important is that they keep them safe and locked. I think at the beginning I mentioned there is a fact that parents think that the children don't know. The parents who have guns, a lot of them, they think that they don't know where they are. And there's data that I think I put at the beginning, it shares that a lot of them, they know, even when parents think they don't. So just to keep that as a reference. Okay.
Angelica,
Yes.
I just wanted to mention we're at 7 minutes till the hour. And I just want to be sure we have time for you to mention the services that people can access from SafeCare, but with the home visits and that sort of thing.
Perfect. Yes. Thank you. Thank you, Betsy. That's a good, I appreciate that you tell me the time, right? Good. I will, and this is definitely the last part of the hazards is the crush. So basically every large items, objects, and then a walkway that they can fall over the child. What we definitely recommend is attach them. TV, they're really nice, big, but they're also very unstable. Make sure that they're really attached to the wall. They're very supported. Furniture like big, definitely a lot of dressers. So there's a lot of locks that can be attached to the walls because again, as I mentioned before, they want to climb, especially if you have things up there that they seem very appealing. They will climb. So you have to definitely, like the one that I have here behind me, if I have a child here, that will be a hazard because anything that he might want to go over that is at the top. So I will have to attach this. That's a very good sample of what kind of furniture needs to be attached to prevent crush. And the last one is allergen organics is very related about how we can prevent a lot of respiratory problems. So everything that is organic hazards are basically anything that is natural things that can grow mold like food. So keep our kitchen clean is very important, bathrooms, it's a lot of basically keep our home clean. Allergens are basically anything that can, all these are related with breathing problems. Most of them are like smoking sometimes, animal hair, when it's a lot of hair that can create some problems, a lot of dust as well. And definitely in terms of the organics is also make sure that you are aware that there are insects or pests. Children, if are exposed to that, that also create some problems, and they are related to the safety and well-being of the child. So those are the 10 main categories that we normally go, because are the most common ones for the reasons why children visit emergency rooms. And we hope this kind of little tips or just a refresher, you're probably aware of them. But if there are any specific questions, I would like to just address this. I know we have little time, but I also put this website at the bottom. If you have questions, this is the right time to do it. But this website, SafeKidsorg, I find this is a great website where you can find a lot of activities for children that you can start talking with them about safety. They also share statistics, data, some of the information that I shared today. They have videos that you can share, you can learn, and tips related to all kind of safety topics beyond the hazards that I mentioned today, because there are more. Definitely some are more like, depending on the age, car seats, information about toys. Definitely I would recommend you, if you want to learn more about them, you can find it in this website that I put at the bottom. So if I'm not sure if there are questions, but if there are any, what Betsy was mentioning is, as was introduced, I'm the SafeCare Program Coordinator for the Arapahoe County. However, SafeCare is a statewide program, and is free volunteer home visitation right now, because COVID-19, we're only doing virtual visits. And believe it or not, we do safety virtually. So it's a little different as we normally do, but typically we come to their homes and we do safety at home. And we're going to identify hazards, but in this case, we're doing it virtually. So we rely on a lot of the families that help us and give us, we use video Zoom to go walk around their homes. It's a free, and we focus on 3 main areas, but you can see a little bit of the information in what it is. So it's for children, for parents who have children 0 to 5. And if anybody is interested, this is my contact information and also the website. So you can send online your more information if you're interested in SafeCare, and we will follow up with you to see if there is some criteria to participate in the SafeCare program. So we will reach out to you and find out if this is a good fit for you and for the program, because there's some guidelines in order to participate. This is my email address and also my phone in case that you need to contact and have more specific questions. But I do want to thank you for participating. I hope this was a good reminder of the importance of keeping our children home safe. And if you are interested, or you know somebody who wants to learn more about safety, please let them know and share our link on our website. So I don't know if there are any questions, Betsy.
I don't think we have any questions, but I want to thank you very much for your time, Angelica. That was a lot of really important and useful information. Thank you for sharing your time and your expertise with us today. To everyone who attended, thank you for joining us. Our Parenting Strategies series will continue on Tuesday, February 16th at 4 p.m. with a program about mindful parenting. And meanwhile, if you do have any questions about early childhood issues or, of course, early reading, early literacy, don't hesitate to use our Ask a Librarian service. We can help point you in the right direction. And thank you again. We'll see you soon.
Thank you. Goodbye, everyone. Have a nice
Bye.
evening.